All right. Everybody, welcome back to Brown and Browner, the post-election edition on Thursday.
Good
No,
morning.
it's been a week, but we'll go over some NFL recap and things here in a second, along with our predictions for this upcoming week. But in the meantime, we'll take a few minutes to discuss society and politics because that's the soup du jour of the last 24 to 48 hours, let's say. Some people surprised, some people not. We'll go over what's there and kind of go from there. But as we've always said, do your own diligence, think with yourself, and as long as you're thinking, we respect you. It's as simple as that.
That's right. And know that your vote is your vote.
Sir.
So we might have our own opinions and thoughts, but you should have voted based on what you think will help you in the future.
Well, and I hit that note on the very high note because we were just coming off a quick conversation on why we think things happen the way they happen. At the end of the day, and I've said it since I was 18 and I could vote and go now. You vote for yourself. As much as we like to be altruistic, and we've mentioned this on this discussion before, where we like to think of the greater benefit of the society. At the end of the day, a vote in your own hands is one of the most powerful things you own that you really don't think about, unfortunately, a lot of times. And it's for you. It's yours. As a citizen of this country, it's yours. And you think with your own mind, you think in your own selfish thought. And I don't want to call it selfish. I mean selfish in the most respectful way, meaning you think about yourself, your family, whatever's more important to you over the next 2-4 years, whatever the outlook is for the political climate, and you think for your own benefit. What's going to help you be the best person of you, whether it's for your own family, whether it's for other things, whatever it is. And for that very reason, I think when it came down to the nuts and bolts of it, as you've seen throughout this entire dynamic of the political season, one side was sitting there telling you, hey, what we can do, which is, a part of it. And that same party also had 4 years to show you what they could do or what they wanted to do, may not have done it. And now the society has kind of seen that. The other side had 4 years prior, showed you what it did. Some people were happy with it. Some people weren't. You had an opportunity to choose now whether what you want to see for the next 4, in that same vein. And at the end of the day, I think the topics of economics and basically self-governing and national thought kind of took over in this election, essentially.
I'm not sure I agree with that. I do feel like as far as past performance versus what people were referencing, especially since, and I would have to say this. I'm really not a party person because I think there should be a third party because I'm disappointed in both parties and how they just gave us the same old meal and expected us to eat it, and what, it was better than the last time you had it. To me, neither one of these candidates were good, in my opinion. But the Dems shot themselves in the foot, the Democrats, because they should have been more aware of Biden's situation and deterioration to have made this decision sooner. So whomever would have been chosen, whether it was Kamala or whomever else, depending on when that was done and who would have been allowed to throw their hat in the ring, would have given people more opportunity to understand the candidate, listen to the candidate, know the candidate, versus slamming somebody in there, figuring that they could just ride the wave and win an election. My personal opinion, and this is where I think I differ from you, is I would agree that some of those things do apply to some people.
Right.
But I don't think 70 million or 80 million or however many millions of people who voted for Trump were all thinking in that way.
No,
I think there were many people who were just thinking, and to put it bluntly, black and white.
Well, and
they weren't thinking gray; they were thinking black and white.
Well, and I think, and I'd say this, more of my argument is probably secondary to the fact of exactly what you said. I agree with you there, where historically, I think the Democrats failed themselves by not setting themselves up with a better candidate. I mean, I'm not saying, Kamala, fine, whatever, but you know what? I said this in our very meeting here the day after Joe Biden dropped out of the race. I said, oh, well, they're going to take a week and figure out who to vet out and go there. No, the very next day on Monday, she jumped right in and said, I'm taking all the delegates and riding with this. And I don't know if the Democratic Party, behind the scenes agreed to that or not. I couldn't tell you, and I don't know if we'll find out maybe in history later in time when somebody writes a book about it. But I feel that in itself probably alienated the middle America portion, meaning the ones that were on the fence trying to figure out what to do, because at the end of the day, that's not a democracy. You didn't let every other candidate that wanted to rise up in that party voice an opinion, be vetted out, be supported by the entire party in some fashion. I mean, not to say that I'm a supporter of Gavin Newsom, but I think Gavin Newsom would have been a fresh voice for that party. And he was obviously up and coming, had the California vibe, everything else going. There's probably several others. Hakeem Jeffries, I mean, out of the Senate. Again, or sorry, out of the House. You know, you've got modern, younger voices in the party that weren't allowed to speak up, weren't allowed to take their precedent, and weren't allowed to ascend to that next level when you had, you had a VP in office with Kamala, but was she entitled to take over that reign as the next presidential candidate? Or was she somebody that just looked at her own self-worth and said, okay, it's my turn, I'm just going to take it?
Well, you know, I feel like Hillary was the candidate one year because the Democrats agreed it was her turn, when maybe Bernie Sanders should have been the pick.
Bernie or Joe at that point. I mean, it could have been either one. Yeah.
Well, and this is why I'm disappointed in where our politics are today, because if, like I said, it was a retread. We basically were going down the same path we went down 4 years ago with Biden and Trump. You're going to tell me, and you know, to a Republican, was Trump really your candidate?
Well,
was everybody given a fair chance? What happened to the Cruzes of the world who ran vigorously against him previously? Not hardly a peep out of these people. Same thing for the Democrats.
Yeah.
You're going to tell me neither one of these parties were able in the last 4 years or even longer to nurture, cultivate a candidate that was a little younger, that could appeal to the masses, that had the same basic principles that the party believes in, but has a younger face, has a fresher way of presenting themselves than the stodgy old men that we were about to, have until Biden dropped out. That to me is a slap in the face to the entire American public, because we should be better than that. It should be about us growing and helping form a better America based on the values, principles of all Americans. And you can't tell me that there isn't somebody who's 40 years old, somebody like Barack Obama. If you think about it, he was cultivated, he was nurtured, and then all of a sudden he was president.
Well, and to your point, that's exactly it. Where did that sense of America go away in the last literally 16 years? Because in a way, regardless of what party you were, Barack Obama was a beacon of light. I don't care what anybody says, because most of America, obviously he was voted in, most of America galvanized and got behind a guy who they saw as a progressive leader and wrote it out for not just one term, but 2 terms justifiably, and did, in my opinion, a great job, regardless of party line. Now, sometime between Obama and then Trump and everything else that happened, both parties absolutely failed. There's no question in cultivating the next generation, because it fell apart dramatically. Now, at the beginning of the meeting, you just said, where all the votes fell, and obviously, Trump got the majority. They got a big red wave both in the Senate, and I think apparently what will probably be the House as well, which would be nuts. But
it's gonna rule. They're gonna both sides. They're very powerful now.
Now the crazy thing is, I think, and I agree with some of the pundits that have come out in the last 24 hours. Do you think the vote for Trump? I mean, I think there was part of it that was obviously the loyalists and all that. Do you think the majority of the votes that Trump got were a vote against Kamala? Meaning, if you were a moderate, if you were an undecided, whatever it was, did you vote for Trump simply because you weren't satisfied with the Democratic nominee? And I think that's true, because like you just said, it was just an anointment and just another enshrining of another person on the Democratic side versus actually cultivating the ground root effort to bring up the Democratic Party and create a succession plan, right? Somebody who just felt, again, entitled. Hillary was seen kind of the same way and everything else. And I think that's where they have failed, because they have not started at the ground up to do that. Now, interesting, I'm going to think 4 years ahead. You got J.D. Vance, very young, VP. You got Vivek Ramaswamy, very young, charismatic. You've got Nikki Haley, female, on that side. You got the Republicans have a little bit of a younger base to work with in, let's say, 2 to 4 years. Where are the Democrats? Seriously. I mean, yeah, you've got a Gavin Newsom. He's older, but he's in California. So, he's got his own thing going. You got Hakeem Jeffries in New York. He was basically a protege of Chuck Schumer. Do people want to go with the old guard kind of thing? Yeah. Where are your younger candidates in the country that you are willing to rise up and bring up from governor bases, House bases, state bases, whatever it is? Because that's what you did with Obama, and you were successful with it. Where is that now?
I don't know. I don't know who's running either party, because I feel like the parties are just getting behind something, but that's not something that they're really helping to support on both sides of the fence.
Absolutely.
Honestly, I just think we'll see what happens, but we'll see after the pardons and the immunity. And my thought is this: you heard it here. Let's see if Donald Trump tries to change the term policy of the president. Let's see if he tries to see how long he can hold on to this. Because remember, when he lost the last time, he was not happy, and he utilized people to express his unhappiness, and then said, "It wasn't me."
Well, that's so that it's coming out a little bit more, I think, in the last few weeks, where when he took office last time, he had virtually the reins from a popular standpoint in the Republican group, not necessarily the Republican Party. Now, when he got into office, he had to build a cabinet. Supposedly, the cabinet was thrust on him, and he didn't build it out. This time around, it's the other way around. Supposedly, he's got people lined up out the door, ready to take some of these slots, and he's already handpicked some of those positions within his cabinet. So, like you just said, policy is what's going to be interesting. Can he execute on what he's talking about, or will he change his rhetoric, or whatever happens? And then, let's say it fails. Is he going to go back to the same old swing where he goes back and blames every single one of those people? Because if you note, everybody from his cabinet last year didn't support him this time around. They're all gone. They're all
because they were the fall guys and fall women, because that's what he's about. He doesn't accept blame. He doesn't accept responsibility.
This is the TV show. This is The Apprentice. I mean, he'll fire off whatever PM is out there, in some fashion. So he might be the grand orchestrator and come up with some wild thought at 5 a.m, which I'm kind of looking forward to the 5 a.m. tweets these days. Go back to that old regime.
See, and you know what? You're laughing at that, and see, this is the problem, because I talk to people overseas, and that's exactly what they feel. This guy is supposed to be representing the biggest nation in the world, the most powerful nation in the world, and he's up, tweeting and all of these things, and most importantly, they're not being vetted before they reach, the public.
No social media secretary for Donald J. Trump.
But see, that is something that should never happen. This is the leader of our country, not some teenager in high school who wants to get their words out as soon as they get up in the morning.
Think about this in corporate America. You have marketing teams at corporations, right? That put out pressers and everything. And many of us are unhappy with this. Many of us are happy with it, whatever it is. But either way, you've got a filter system, right? In this case, you got 5 a.m. tweets out of bed. I mean,
Well, and some of the things that have been said, give everyone a chance. You never know how people will perform in the moment. So we'll see what happens.
Yes.
But what I'm hopeful of, and what I'm a little afraid of, is America is taking steps backwards. And I feel like the people and society in general forget that America's built on the melting pot concept. And we took the things that everyone brought into America and we crafted into something that made it American. Whether you were Italian or Irish or black, white, other, you came here, you had your culture, you had all of the things that made you and your people them, and you blended those things together to make something better.
Well, the presidency is supposed to be seen as something iconic, not just nationally, but globally, right? You're the president of the freaking United States, one of the most powerful countries in the world, and things that are remembered is who you are, what you've done, and everything else. I think when we were growing up, I think we took an appreciation for history, not to say that the current generation doesn't, but I think there was a running joke. I think it was on SNL last week when Kamala was on, They had another skit on there. I think it was like a Jeopardy type thing or whatever it is that they normally do. And they bring a guest person into the room. And he's portraying who used to be the VP candidate with Hillary Clinton. Can you, off the top of the head, name me who the VP candidate was on Hillary Clinton's ticket at this point in time?
Off the top of my head, no.
And it's only been how many years? Like 12-ish, right?
Yeah.
It's only been 12 years, and we can't. I mean, most of society, I would go out there and probably do a street poll. I could probably find 95% of the people probably won't remember the guy's name. The guy's name was Tim Kaine. He's still a rep somewhere in Congress or whatever it is these days. Apparently got voted in this past cycle in Virginia, but nobody remembers. So that to me is kind of indicative of the thing that people don't respect the office of the presidency, the vice presidency anymore like they used to. I think the 80s and 90s were more iconic. You had the Bushes, the Reagans. Everybody remembers that era. Everybody remembers, like, what good or bad, you remember who these people are because they were the face of the most powerful country in the world. Is America really even the most powerful country in the world? Probably not. And I think that for that reason, there is no level of reverence or respect for that chair anymore. And I think that's what's being lost, like you just said.
But we need to bring that back. There was reverence and respect when Obama 100%. Was there. But then with the last two candidates, we're not looking at. I'm sorry, we need to stop looking at people who look like they could be on the dollar bill. We need to get someone a little fresher, a little bit more on the ground, who actually, not the old money, perspective. We need something different. But what I was saying before you mentioned what you said was, people need to come together. The idea of what we are should be more of us bringing in each other. We're not going to agree on everything. Nobody does. Let's be real about that. But there should be enough principles and morals that are built in the fabric of our society to where we do overlap and we look at each other as human beings first, which we're all part of that race. And then you look at those other things. But those shouldn't be the dominant way. It should not dominate the way we look at life or each other. But they're starting to become that again.
Yes.
And we are starting to look. Remember, this is a person that just got elected who were talking about women and what the lack of worth they had. What was he said? He grabbed them up and then, you know what? He talked about different types of people, whether they were Latino, black, white, other, Asian. I mean, we are moving towards what I've always said, and I've said it to some friends of mine on different text strings, the idiocracy concept, that I think we're not looking at evolving, we're devolving. And that is not what we should be doing. There are so many things that we need to address to make sure that people with mental health issues those things are being addressed, that we need to look at society as a whole and how we can bring each other together so we can grow. If we're just going to stay polarized, and that's on both sides of the coin, because I hated this election more than any other, because all I heard was what each other wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't about what the politicians are going to do for the people, and that's what those elected offices are supposed to represent. And because of that kind of rhetoric and going at each other, and you're this and you're that, mudslinging left and right, our whole country has become that kind of perspective, and it's not about any substance anymore. It's about how you look, what your gender is. Do you agree with me? Are you aligned with what we feel the Bible says about how people should live? And that's all we're looking at. It doesn't matter about how you are as a person, what your accomplishments are. That none of those things mean nothing anymore. Where are we as a society when the content of our character doesn't matter at all, and it's just a first glance judgmental kind of concept that we've devolved into, because we used to think like that. We were trying to move away from that.
Think about it this way. When Obama took office, and this is just my personal take on it, when you went from the time of like the 2000s, 2010s, and you went into Obama, I think as a global society, there was always different views about democracy, aristocracy, all these other different things, right? And I think historically, over the last 300, 400, 500 years, the aristocracy has always been seen as kind of like this classy thing that people aspire to. Not necessarily to be an aristocrat or anything like that, but just the way they carry themselves professionally, the way that they look like a distinguished character in society. There was a certain level of elegance to it. I think Obama brought that mainstream because He was polished. He spoke eloquently. He captivated audiences with what he had to say. Whether you agreed with it or not, he eloquently spoke his thoughts. And to that degree, the presidency has gone downhill in every succession since. Whether it was Trump, whether it was Biden, the rhetoric has all become mudslinging versus talking positively. And that's the big problem.
And that's the problem. And again, since when do we think it's okay, whether it was Biden or Trump, that we have someone who represents our country, but they can't articulate
crap. Yeah.
The things that we as a society need and want.
Yep.
And again, what I was saying earlier, the world, it matters what leader we have, because the world has a view of who we are, and to a country, except for a couple of few, and you know who those few are, they have laughed at Trump. They laughed the last time. Whenever I went abroad, I kept hearing, what do you think about Trump? What do you think about Trump? Wow, is he a petulant child? All of these things, because that's how he comported himself. And that's not what we should be. We're a powerful country, and we got somebody at the helm that people laugh at and don't respect. That's why people are looking at America the way they look at us. Because whether it's Biden, Trump, or whomever, where is that fresh voice where someone is actually saying something that matters and has a presidential aura about them? And you could look at them, and you may not, you could see him on the street, but the way he walked and the way he engaged with you, man, that guy has something. That's something that I can respect.
Yep.
Do we respect any of the other leaders that followed him?
Yeah. Well, and almost not jokingly, but jokingly, I say, okay, look around the world. We denigrate some of these, not denigrate, but don't respect like countries like Russia and things like that in places where there's dictatorships. But think about this for a moment. All those places that have these dictators or whatever it is, it's not like they're just freewheeling and standing and talking shit at 5 a.m. They have filters too in the way that they're presented to their own countries. China and Russia, very notably. Hell, even India to that degree has filtered out Modi, even though he's been kind of off the cuff. And he's known for his own bad things in his own right. People don't realize that elegance and presence is completely lost on American politics these days. Like you just said, when they walk into a room, do I give two shits? No. The last time I did that was when Obama was in office. When Biden walks in the room,
he commanded respect because he commanded respect. None of these other people since have commanded that kind of respect.
Agreed. And that's hopefully, like I said, we're optimistic here, and we'll kind of leave it here. We're optimistic that the next 2 to 4 years is a transition to that in some fashion, regardless of who's in office right now. And they all collectively realize we must make America a place of respect again. Forget the whole MAGA thing. It's a level of respect globally that we are sorely lacking over these last 15 years.
Well, and we need to stop talking about, I get the MAGA slogan and it worked and all of that stuff, but make America great again. It sort of makes you think that America isn't great now, that someone took America down, but who's taking America down? Is it Democrats? Is it Republicans? Is it people? What is taking America down? And we should be addressing that. And it isn't, oh, well, we need to put a tariff on all of this and we need to kick the immigrants out. That's not it. I do agree with the crime. I do agree with certain laws that are in place that aren't allowing for things to happen in a manner that would help. But I'll say this. We should have an eye towards the future and be prepared for that. And that's another thing that Obama did that was undone immediately after he left office was, hey, let's put money aside just in case if we have like a pandemic, we had the ability to mobilize like that. Well, since it was Obama and I'm party centric and I don't want to have some party dominate what I'm doing, and it doesn't matter if it's Trump or anyone else, that could be on both sides too. I'm going to undo that. But that didn't have to be undone. That actually made sense. And it shouldn't be about a party. And it shouldn't be about, I'm going to undo what you did so I can put my stamp on something. It should be what's right for the people. All of these positions are elected officials paid with our tax dollars. And yet I don't feel like any of them, and it doesn't matter who you put in the president. It's all everybody in the party. They're not looking out for us. They're looking out for them. And they're riding the wave of emotion, which includes hate, to make someone look bad. And that's on both sides. Kamala and Trump, they both did all of this stuff. That's not what, aren't we better than that? We need to be better, people. We as voters, we as the public should demand that from our parties. And there should be a third party. This two-party system sucks because we keep getting things that really aren't about us. It's about them. And not about Democrats or Republicans. They all sleep in the same bed at the end of the night. So just remember that.
Given where we stand today, I challenge both parties to this over the next 2 to 4 years. Regardless of whatever the word is that you use to describe your party, whether it's Democrat or Republican, I say F all that. Act in the best interest of people. And I don't care about your party stance. I want you to go off as an independent if you have to, or whatever it is. Take your stance, but be true to the people that you represent, whether you're a House congressman, a senator, a president, whatever it is. Represent what you're supposed to represent. The president in his office is supposed to represent all the people. We know that. Congress, they represent their representative districts. I get that. But think about the majority of the people in your district, not just the people that voted you in. And if you do that over the next 2 to 4 years, we are all better off as a country. Simple as that. Don't care about your party line. Really don't.
Honestly, I don't care about your party line. Exactly. How are you going to help the people today? And how are you going to help build a better future? That should be what all of these politicians and elected officials should be focused on, not the whole idea of their, position and being able to hold on to it and be able to incite things that'll get people to be on one side of the fence or the other side of the fence. That's not what we should be about. You can't grow like that. You know what? I'm not a huge want to talk about politics guy. It happened. It is what it is. Let's see what happens. I'm not going to condemn what the new president will bring, as long as he's bringing something for the people. So we'll see what that's true.
If we're going to live up to the words that we talk about every day, let's look forward. Let's see what happens, and then we'll go from there. We'll criticize things as they come along, but I'm not going to sit there and jump to conclusions on what he isn't or isn't going to do, because there's going to be people that are stepped on. We know that. It doesn't matter who's small. We know that's going to happen. But let's see if there's actual progression as a collective in the country. That's all I can hope for.
Well, and I want to be represented in the right way. I don't want to go overseas and have somebody question who I am as an American because they see the person who represents America looking like a buffoon and saying things that make absolutely no sense whatsoever. Absolutely. So that's what I'm worried about, and that's what I want to see change. So DT, let's see if you can do that. All right.
Yep. Agreed.
Go orange. Go orange.
Yeah. Can't tell what shade that is anymore.
I meant Syracuse, guys. Anyway, we got to transition to sports. We've got an interesting slate of games this week. There are some games that are truly going to determine who's in and who's out of the playoffs. And we also have some interesting moves that occurred during the trade deadline that I think may propel certain teams over the top. And the funny thing is the rich got richer because Detroit got them a pass rusher, not of the same level as what they had, but they have someone now who can put pressure on a quarterback, which they needed. Kansas City got an all-world receiver, and maybe he's a little long in the tooth, but he obviously can still play, and he showed that in the last game. There are some other moves that were made as well, but those two were the most significant in my mind.
I think the two moves to look out for, which happened actually later in the day on Tuesday, that I don't know necessarily get the level of respect they really should. So the one, I think it probably does, Marshawn Lattimore to the Commanders.
That was actually a great move. Coming from New Orleans.
I think Schefter had talked about, Schefter kept saying that the Chiefs were probably in prime position to get that one. Obviously, the compensation probably wasn't enough, is what it sounds like, because they got a big haul for him down in New Orleans, and deservedly so. The Commanders are now looking to the future, and I love it. I'm not a Commanders fan by any means. I'm a Chiefs fan. But if I'm going to respect anybody in the DMV, I respect the hell out of the Commanders for doing it, because it changes that tide. It continues that narrative. Change the culture, make it better. And I love the move they made.
And boy, how fast have they made this move?
Ron
Rivera and the enemy and all of that was just last year?
I don't even blame that. I blame the ownership. It's Dan Snyder.
Dan Snyder was the one who sent this ship into the iceberg. But
we talk about it, tooth and nail. Owners set the culture for a team. We've seen
Agreed.
what toxicity exists around the league. The minute that happened, rejoice and change over. I mean, people want to come, supposedly people want to come play for the Commanders. Think about that. You asked somebody literally 365 days ago where that stood. No chance in hell.
No, that wasn't a destination that you felt you had a good future and they were, trending upwards. They were flatlined because of all the things that Daniel Snyder did and the controversy behind that. It really cast a shadow over that organization. But boy, did they wake up and turn the tides and talk about a place I would want to go if I was a player. They have potential. What's that? What'd you say?
Hey, Bears and Cowboys.
I mean, well, and I was just saying to some of my friends that I used to play ball with, they were all high on the Bears. And I was like, look, you need to temper that because, first of all, this is still the Bears. And secondly, the coaching is still the same. But look at what Washington has built. And they are building a culture. And it's a culture that's going to carry them for the next decade if everything sort of aligns with where they are now with their quarterback and coaching, etc.
Yep.
The Bears, think about this. Detroit Lions were sort of there not long ago. Look at where they are now. The Bears, in the meantime, being a large market team, they've gone the opposite direction because they choose to be cheap. And I'm sorry for any of you fans out there, make the owners, look at things in a way a fan should be looking at it. Because if you're an owner of a team, you should have a little fandom in you that makes you want to make this team better and not just look at the bottom line. You guys are billionaires. Come on now. It shouldn't be about trying to make an extra million. It should be about trying to put the best product on the field, and the money will always come.
Well, let's relate this back to the topic we discussed earlier. There's a level of legacy that's involved as an owner, I would think, right? Like you would want to be remembered for having won something, done something, whatever it is. That's where you get with like the Rooneys and everybody else that, historically have done successful things with their teams. Yes. Cheap or not, they've made things successful. Jerry Jones, what is he going to be remembered for? He's going to be remembered for, honestly, never winning a title. That's all. I mean, he could have raised the value of the Cowboys 50-fold, which he has.
And he has. He's done that.
He got brand recognition. But you know what?
Yeah. But what does that mean?
Most of the globe doesn't cheer for losing causes.
Exactly. And they're no longer America's team. Remember, Dallas is America's team from way back. Are they America's team now? No, they aren't.
That moniker needs to go away quickly.
I said that the other day. You're so right. They're not America's team. You want America's team? San Fran was America's team for a second. The Patriots was America's team for a while. Maybe the Commanders should be the next America's team. It sure as hell should not be a label that is put on the Dallas Cowboys. That star is not the same thing anymore. It doesn't, symbolize the same thing.
I'll equate this to something even more global. You've got European soccer, right? European soccer, people cheer for their for their loyalty. I get all that. But the minute a franchise starts losing in that world, the respect is lost, and they clean house.
Oh, yeah, they do. That. All of the stars are gone. They're like, look, we're not going to pay crazy money for you. You're going to go. And matter of fact, many of those stars get relegated, or unless they get picked up, they get relegated just like the team.
Yep.
So, but we don't have that here in America.
I would love to see that world in football. Like, imagine if we had a tier 2.
Well, the funny thing is, it's sort of like how the Yankees were for quite some time until recently. You spend all of this money, and yet you're putting a product on the field that just makes you want to turn the TV off because they do have talent, but it's sort of like what the Bears are. The Bears and the Cowboys have similar issues because their owners suck, but they also have issues because their coaching sucks, and somebody needs to clean house. The Bears, they are making the same mistake over and over and over again. And here's what the mistake is. Caleb has the talent. But if you put a coaching system around them that's temporary, and then you change it the next year, and then you change it the next year, how are you ever developing that potential or realizing that potential? Because you're not developing the quarterback. That's what's happening with the Bears. And their coaching sucks, and they got lame duck coaches, how's that helping Caleb grow?
Well, I think this year is one of the best years to have seen this firsthand, and I don't think people are talking about it enough. There's quarterbacks that have always been drafted high over the last 10, 15 years. A lot of those quarterbacks don't have jobs, as we well know. But the minute they've left cancerous organizations, they have turned into studs. Sam Darnold, number one. I mean,
Sam Darnold, yeah, that is a good example. But I think sometimes, like we all learn at our own pace, right? Not everyone learns the same. I feel like some of the quarterbacks aren't put in a situation for them to learn. They're put in a situation for them to fail. Justin Fields, you hear me?
Isn't that the job of ownership and management to figure out when you've taken a player to marry the right things? Like that is 100%. Their job function.
100%.
It's 100% their job function to do that. And I think that's where 98% of the GMs around the country fail, because they've set up so many players for failure that have this great potential coming out of college that they never get the opportunity. I think the stat came out this weekend when I was listening to the Panthers game very briefly, which I don't know why I was doing that, but Bryce Young's had 3 coordinators. And okay, what do you expect?
Exactly. How do you expect them? It's like trying to learn a new language every time. How are you going to do that and be proficient at it? You're not going to be.
The kid can't use 3 versions of Duolingo and expect to learn German. I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way.
And that's exactly right. And that's funny because I actually do have Duolingo, and I did do the German part. But that's the problem, and that's what happened with Fields and Trubisky. Well, Trubisky should have never been drafted where he was off of a 13-game, sample size in college. That's ridiculous.
That part about college I'll discuss on another day. The fact that we somehow draft people for 1 season, of college and think that they're their god somehow, which again, failure of GMs and ownership, right? Like we were going to get back to the universal theme here where they don't figure out how to marry up the right resources to make their team successful for 3, 4, 5 years. They think, he's got to be thrown in the game and he's got to start winning on game 1. Caleb Williams has got to start winning 10 games this year. I'm sorry. Work that way.
Well, it's the way we are, though. It's like instant gratification. No, this is a plant. You got to actually put the seed in the soil and you got to water it and get some sun and water it again. That's what you do to nurture something and make it grow into what you're looking for it to, expecting it to be.
Quick check on the Bears. This has nothing to do with the Bears, but okay, look at the Packers. The Packers part ways with things when they go sour. That's what they've done historically. And you know what? Every one of those things has come true. Mike McCarthy, okay, we're going to get rid of you. Okay, you look like shit in Dallas. We can tell you're shit before. Aaron Rodgers, you're washed up. Well, guess what? Yeah, you are washed up. You're done.
And we drafted a quarterback to make sure that we keep that whole train moving in the right direction, even without you. And same thing they did with Favre when Favre was there.
No, like I said.
Although the Favre one, he left them and went to Minnesota and went like 15-1, didn't he?
And I think that every organization can't be perfect, so they probably got to have 1 more year out of him. I get it, and they let the sun set, but they did win a title with Rodgers, right after. So hey,
they did the right thing. Even with Favre leaving, they did the right thing. It was time for him to go in order for Aaron to grow.
Yeah, so that's where I said, like, in terms of management skill, I think the Packers are one of the best. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the Ravens. You have these class organizations that know how to work
Ravens, Chiefs,
success, not momentary blips of whatever it is. Like even the Carolina Panthers, you had 1 year of success only because you had a guy that could carry the franchise in Cam Newton. I'm sorry to say, But what did you do to him? Then you threw him into the ground because you got no support, no protection, and he's done, right? Again. Marry up the resources and keep them together. Why do you think the Chiefs try to keep Andy Reid around? Well, guess what? Him and Mahomes are the greatest things since sliced bread.
Right. But you got to also look at the organization. I'll pose this question: if the top 2 picks were switched, and Caleb was in Washington, and Jalen Daniels was in Chicago.
I think it's a completely different story we're talking about. Yeah, meaning I think each one fails in their respective place. Meaning Jaden would fail in Chicago and Caleb would thrive in Washington, I think.
And that's organization. That's not individual. Because Washington is building the culture. They're putting the money in. They had the pieces in place. They realized what they needed to be able to bring in, and they had a focus on that. The Bears, that's all it is. It's a bunch of chaos. It's like somebody who just walked into a New Year's party and they were already drunk, and as soon as the door opened, that's the Bears, and that's what's been the Bears since back in the 80s.
The Bears is when you build a clown and you just put multiple colors together and hope that it all sticks. Versus actually designing the natural form of the Mona Lisa somewhere like in the Commanders. You know what I mean? Like
it's sad, and as a fan, it's just disappointing. And for all those fans out there of the various teams, we mentioned Carolina, New Orleans. I mean,
Orleans.
all of these teams should be looking to build the kind of legacy for them to be talked about in the same light as the Pittsburgh Steelers, who has one coach for the last 20 years, who has a legacy of winning. Same with the Chiefs, you know, but as important, same with the Ravens, but as important, and we were talking about this earlier, how do you look? James Jones, or Jerry Jones, excuse me, not James Jones, looks like a buffoon.
Oh, yeah. Well, so one other lesson to learn for GMs is you don't go steal culture either, because that's where the Chiefs failed, if you recall, in the 2000s.
Yeah.
They went and tried to buy the Patriot culture.
Yeah, they just wanted to free agent it and think that was going to be it.
Yeah. You know, first we tried to delve into the San Francisco world, right? Then we did okay with the quarterback.
Yeah, all the quarterbacks. Every quarterback from San Francisco, as soon as you washed up, come over here.
Then we took the Rams. Then we took, we went all these other places to steal culture. Well, guess what? You can see it in Detroit. You can see it in Washington. You start your own damn brand.
And that's it. And Detroit and Washington, man, my hat's off to both of those organizations, because not long ago they were in the crapper, and look at what they've become. And any other organization could become that if you want to. You know, it's what is important to you. Caleb, I hope that your career gets a kickstart with whatever coach is going to come in, because the coach will be fired. But boy, it should be something that the owners should be looking to cultivate. Let's go get a front line. All right, well, our focus this year, Ryan Pace, whatever, you're going to go out, get you 2 good offensive linemen. I think your wide receiving core is okay. Your defense could lose a little bit of tinkering, but they're not too bad. And that's how you protect your investment. Just like if we're investing money, you protect your investment. That's protecting your investment. Jaden Daniels, you go over there, you see what he's doing. Look at how they're blocking for him. You watch him sometimes, he's sitting back there, checking out TikTok. He's in there checking out TikTok like, okay, I got about 5 seconds to go to ball. Yeah. Yeah. That's what you do if you want someone to be successful. And more important, and it's about this in any pro sport, it's about the swagger and the confidence that a person has. If you beat them down long enough, they'll never be the same, because they won't have that. They'll be shell-shocked every time they think and enter a situation.
Think about this. Jaden Daniels had that ball 2 weeks ago. 70-yard throw, magnificent, touchdown for game winner or whatever against the Bears. Have you heard a peep out of him talk about it? No, but you know what? Because the kid knows there's more to be had in the world.
That's right. That's right. And that's what it should be. It's just like when you see these people, man, it kills me during the game, when a lineman or, defensive lineman tackles the quarterback. Now they're down 20. They're down 20. But he's celebrating like they just started the game, right? It's like, come on, man, act like you've been there before. Be a professional and realize the situation. And what is the goal? And if the goal is you just throwing that Hail Mary, more power to you. But if the goal is this is just another stepping stone in our development and maturity to be able to realize our goals, then you act like how Jaden's acting. And that's what all of these players should be looking at and trying to emulate.
Now on that, let's kind of
let's look at some of these schedules, because I know I do need to get going.
We're going to jump right into tonight's game because, again, class organization, class move made by picking up Tre'Davious White or whatever is it, the corner. And they did it sneaky, too. Nobody ever saw him there, and I was like, oh, man.
But that was a class move, a smart move.
That's the Ravens, though. They're going to figure out where to figure out the holes and everything else. So they saw Pittsburgh got the wide receivers. They're like, oh, you know what? We're just going to go get a covered corner. Okay, cool. We'll go pick one up.
You know what? And you said that about Pittsburgh, another team that had a nice little pickup that could really complement their. And here's the thing, and this I heard this on one of the shows the other day or yesterday. To get Mike Williams and pair him with Pickens. And to be able to now, like if you would have gotten Devontae Adams, Pickens is the number 1 receiver, especially in his mind. You go get another 1 receiver, going to mess things up. Ask Garrett Wilson how that felt when he came into the locker room. But you get a Mike Williams. Mike Williams isn't that number 1 receiver, so you're still giving the respect to Pickens, but now you're giving him some relief because there's someone else on the field that people need to think about. And remember, not that they played together at all, but like the Claypools and the Juju Schusters and all of that, those aren't the kind of players that are going to help a 1 become a better 1.
Yep.
And Mike Williams might be able to do that. If Russell Wilson continues at this pace, he might be able to do that because Russell Williams throws a beautiful down field
Yep.
ball, and Mike Williams is one of those big receivers who can haul those things in constantly, do the Hopkins move where you catch it in between 2-3 guys. That's what Mike Williams has the potential to do. We'll see if he does it.
Again, an organization that figures out how to make the best of their resources and make it work with their quarterback. Because if you think back to Russell Wilson's days with Seattle and his receiving core that he had then, you got two guys that are kind of emulating that move between Pickens and Williams now. So you've got a downfield threat like a Lockett back in the day, right? You've got this guy that can be a number one supposedly with Pickens and just got to get out of his head sometimes. But the dude's physically gifted. There's no question about that. Like, it's not even a doubt in my mind. So I think now, like you said, it opens up the field, opens up opportunity for everybody. I think Pittsburgh is going to be looking good. Now, staying in the division, looking at tonight.
Well, just remember, Pittsburgh has Freiermuth too. Don't sleep on him. He's a good tight end.
Freiermuth, Najee. I mean, they got weapons. There's no question. They do. Yep. They got Jalen Warren back there. They got buses back there that can make it work. But in the division, Bengals Ravens tonight in Baltimore.
Love it. Nice transition to the games. Let's take a look at them.
Yep. So I mean, Joe Burr obviously putting up great numbers. Don't get me wrong. I think because this game is in Baltimore, I think the Ravens win. But expect another shootout is what I'm going to say.
I think so. I think Burrows can get the points up there. I think it's up to Baltimore. Are they going to cave in? Do they get an early lead and cave again? I don't think so. And this is one of the games when we're just, it's transitioning from politics to football. This is the game because if Cincinnati loses, you can say that to the playoffs.
Well, and again, no T. Higgins.
If Cincinnati wins, they have an opportunity to rise within the AFC North and potentially get to the playoffs even after their horrible start.
Think about this. Burrow's doing this all without T. Higgins again. T. Higgins, I don't know what the whole deal is this year, but again, you wanted to get money, you wanted to get paid. Now you're all injured and everything else. I get all that, but you know what? You're losing brand value at this point. Yeah, you were already a number 2 behind Chase. I get that. You could have been maybe a 1 somewhere else. I get that too, but not being on the field, it sucks. Yeah,
he's going to get phased out of the offense soon because they got a good tight end in Gesicki. They got some young receivers.
Well, the guy, X factor for the
got Chase.
Mark my word, you got Gesicki, who's a baller everywhere he's been, but he never got the respect. That's a great tight end you got sitting there, along with everything else you got in the arsenal there. Chase Brown's also picking up. I mean, it's the Bengals are going to put up a game again, like you just said. It's up to the Ravens. If they play defense up to their potential, fine. If they don't, I think.
Yeah, but they're at home. They're at home, and I think we both agree that we're picking the Ravens this week, right?
Yep. Next up is our own docket: Chiefs and Broncos. From what I got, I got the Chiefs at home. I don't see it as a trap game yet. If this game was in Denver, I would have said that the Chiefs lose because that Denver defense is real. We still, despite
it's real, but boy, they got shot up last week by Baltimore. Didn't look so real then.
That's true. But again, the Chiefs on offense, yes, we had 20 some odd points last week, but it still isn't that flashy offense of like the Ravens or even Detroit. We're still that tier 2 offense right now. And yeah, we're making it work. Don't get me wrong. We're ground and pounding. We're doing everything right. We get Pacheco back in 2 to 3 weeks. It's going to be a good set. And I think we're figuring out Hopkins. We're figuring out Kelsey. We're getting all there, but we're still in that ramp up period, right? So we need a loss, in my opinion, somewhere just to humble us and level us off and then start and reset that curve back up again. So I'll take Chiefs for now for this weekend. I think we win at home. But then, going forward, I think we got the Bills next week, and that's going to be a fun game to watch.
Okay, I think the Chiefs win this one as well. It's always something when you get these divisional matchups. I don't care who you are. Ask the Ravens when they played the Browns. It's just that's how things work. So this will be a tricky game, I think. I don't think that Denver is going to go down without a fight, but I do feel like the Chiefs, and they've proven this all year. Not something that I'm a fan of, but they've been able to win every single close game. They do what it takes when it's needed to pull out a victory.
Well, the reason for that, and the reason I think the Chiefs win this game pretty handily, is frankly the defense. The Chiefs' defense can stop almost anything these days, which is great. And they're not that defense that's going to shut out anybody. They're that defense that's going to stop scoring.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wouldn't say, like, when you say stop, I feel like it's been the bend, but don't break. We'll let you get into scoring position, but you're not scoring a touchdown. and we got a guy that we know will score a touchdown.
Sorry, Baker. I saw that reaction when you lost the coin flip, and I felt bad. That's all I can say.
That was hilarious. That was hilarious because he knew it, and the whole world knew it. It's like, see, man, you should have gone for two. You should have gone for two.
He went out there. He saw the coin flip. You know, he had his reaction. I'm sure on speed dial, he's got Josh Allen. He's like, bro, I know.
You know it. You know it. He knew it. Everybody knew it. I'm sorry. That's why you go for two when you're on the road and you're the lesser team. That was your fault. Because how many times has that Mahomes done that to people where they never touched the ball?
Yep. No, like I said, it's just one of those things. The league has now learned. We will see where it goes. Simple as that.
Hey, another game on the docket, which I think is a very interesting game due to the situation as well as what's actually coming into the game, which hasn't been here all year long. And I'm talking about this 49ers versus the Buccaneers. McCaffrey's supposed to be coming back this Sunday. And boy, it would be a big lift for the San Francisco 49ers. They're lucky that they're playing in the AFC or the NFC West because they would probably be getting creamed in any other division right now because, you know, they have been injured. And people forget that. It's not that San Francisco all of a sudden is a bad team. They've just had the injury bug like many teams this year, and they've been able to hold on. And I think they're going to start turning it on from here down. And their only competition in their division right now, well, I don't know, the Rams and the Cardinals. Cardinals they're a little tricky too. So we'll see what happens there.
I'll make an interesting analogy here. So, you know, McCaffrey back, great, obviously, but if they're smart and they want to play the long game, I don't think you let him take over as the full-time one. I think you put a share in with Mason, not out of disrespect, but just to protect his knees and his ankles.
I agree. That's why I'm debating on putting him in for my fantasy because he was my first pick in the draft and I haven't played him all year.
The 20 carries, I think you keep him at 10 to 15 carries going forward every game. Bring him in, obviously, on goal line, all that good stuff. I get that. But I almost move this akin to even the Chiefs. When we get Pacheco back here in a couple of weeks, him and Hunt, I love it. Like fire and ice all day. You could live on that. And that's where the San Francisco 49ers, I think, should do. Now, again, playing the Buccaneers in Tampa, I think the 49ers should win that game because honestly, the Bucs are kind of, you know, they're injured at this point. We know that.
And they're suffering from injuries at the two key positions. Their two best receivers are injured. What do you do with that? You throw it to Cotton. Throw it to Cotton. You throw it to Cotton.
Baker can ball. Don't get me wrong. And I love Baker Mayfield and the way he's playing. He's honestly one of the top 3 quarterbacks probably in the league right now in terms of performance. But he's just so hampered on his resources right now that I think the 49ers take this game.
Yeah, I agree. As long as they have players that can put on the field, if either Debo or Kittle are playing along with McCaffrey, I think they'll be okay.
Let's go to the Munich game.
Someone asked me, am I getting up to watch it?
Yeah.
I'll be up anyway because I don't sleep much. I sleep well. But Giants Panthers, is that really worth talking about?
It's sad. I mean, honestly, this might be the lowest attended NFL game on a foreign field.
I don't know. I think it still will be well attended just because of what they're doing over there and hyping it up. Plus, they love sports and love drinking and stuff. Yeah. But talk about a matchup nobody cares about. And I want to say this. The owners of the Giants should be slapping themselves every day. Every time they get up, they should just smack themselves twice and go, why the hell did we keep Daniel Jones over Saquon?
I mean, if Saquon would have also done a kick flip while he did that flip, it would have been a kung fu kick back to the Maras. Honestly,
I mean, straight up, how do you let you? And it's being shown to you every week because Saquon's having a breakout season, and Daniel Jones is being Daniel Jones, except he's getting a lot of money to be Daniel Jones, and that's all he is. He's like, you know, that the actor on the side. What do they call those actors who are just in the background of a scene? What do you call it?
Well, yeah, like basically a background actor. Yeah,
I forget what they call. There's a name. I actually tried to be one in a couple.
Something like that. Whatever.
I don't know. I can't think of it right now, but that's what he is. He's supposed to be a lead character. He's getting paid lead character money, but the dude just fades into the background. He might be able to run the ball. Guy can't pass for crap. They got some good receivers. If they could get a real quarterback and some running game, they actually could go somewhere. I see them beating the Panthers in England because both of those teams are futile. And the Panthers, why are they trading away all of their receivers?
I mean, I didn't
what
know
are they building a future for?
I don't see. That's the funny thing. They don't even have draft capital to work with. That's what's really messed up.
Yeah. So even if they are getting some, late round draft picks, how are they helping Bryce Young get over the embarrassment and futility that he's experienced, which he hasn't had his whole college career?
Right.
How are they helping him get over that hump?
I mean, at this point, every Panthers fan should be wearing a shirt that says "Free Chuba," because Chuba Hubbard deserves a better place to live.
I got him on one of my fantasy teams. He's great, but
Yes.
how great can you be? It's like Walter Payton back in the 70s. If your team's always losing, how often do you have a chance to be great? Because you can't run the ball when you're losing by double digits, and just overall, you have nothing to threaten the defense with except you.
Now, see, here's the disappointment from a fantasy factor. You got Jonathan Brooks is now back apparently from injury, and they drafted him obviously with a lot of distinction. They're probably going to give him field time on Chuba. That's where I feel like you need to free Chuba. I mean, as a fantasy owner, I love Chuba Hubbard. The guy's been a beast with a shitty team for years. Please put him somewhere else. Especially if you're going to ride the Jonathan Brooks train, whatever it is, I don't care. We'll find out. But like I said, weird matchup in Germany. I'm going Giants because the Giants defense will probably overcome that and they'll be fine.
I agree.
I think here's the game of the week: Steelers Commanders.
This
must.
I think whoever comes out of this as the victor is going to have a leg up on their division because they'll be leading their division, as well as the whole playoff chase and race. So, the whole idea is not just to make the playoffs, but get that home game. That means a lot.
Well, we're talking about interesting little matchup because you got the Steelers who have gone with Russell Wilson, so bringing back some legacy and getting some resources around it. Commanders who've got Jaden Daniels and everybody balling out right now. I'm telling you, this is going to be a fun little new versus old kind of clash in D.C. Must-see TV. I'm going to go Steelers only because of the Steeler defense. I think the Steeler defense gets enough pressure on Jaden Daniels to slow him down a little bit. And I think that they'll come out on top. If the game's in DC, it's gonna be a riled up crowd, gonna be a great atmosphere. But you know what? Steel City travels so well, they're probably gonna overtake that stadium. We know that.
They do. I've heard that. I've heard that, and technical difficulties. I'm actually gonna go the other direction. I think this is one of those games that Washington needs to prove itself. They're at home. Yes, the Steelers are the Steelers, but I'm thinking this. If Robinson can play, because he was out last week, I think Washington got both sides of the coin when you look at offense and how they can attack you. And McLaren's having a breakout year because he's finally got his quarterback. The quarterback can hit the ball. I just feel like they're going to put up enough points. And yes, the Steelers their offense, has gotten a shot of epinephrine or something to make them just go. But I feel like they're going to crash a little bit. I think Russell's not going to have the same type of success as he has the last two games.
See, my only thing is the Steelers still have this boy named Watt, and he is scary. He's super scary.
Real scary.
And he's pressure.
Real scary. But again, this is another thing that I have to give, and this is why it's great to have that old school sit in the pocket, can read the defense quarterback, but you need to have someone that has that, like, the awareness of a deer. You know how a deer, they can be sipping water and be into it, and it'll be like, and the deer will go, what? That's what you need at quarterback, and that's what Lamar has. That's what Jaden Daniels has, and I feel like that can help neutralize all of that. Plus, if they have the right scheme, roll your blocking to take care of that person, give your quarterback a couple more seconds. I just feel like Washington's going to win this game.
I'll put two other games on the docket. I think they're both going to be high-scoring affairs on one side. One is going to be the Vikings and Jags. I think the Vikings pile on the points on the Jags, even though it's in Jacksonville. And then Falcons Saints. I think Kirk Cousins gets another layer on his chain with about a 50-pointer on the Saints.
It's like like when they're in the emergency room, and unfortunately something goes wrong, and they go beep.
Power line,
They look at their watch or look at the clock and go, yes, we calling it, and here's the time. This weekend is the time. New Orleans is done.
Yeah, they're done.
They're done.
No, what happens when the Saints have to play the Panthers?
It already happened once, and the Panthers beat them.
I know.
A week or two ago.
At this point, I think you tank if you're the Saints.
Hey, one more game on the docket for the front. Two more games. Patriots, Bears. We don't need to talk about that. I am actually thinking, even though it's in Chicago, I could see the Patriots pulling this out because the Bears don't have enough offense to create enough distance to be able to win this game. I really actually think the Patriots are going to win this game, believe it or not.
I'm going close game. Vegas has the Bears at 6.5, which I'm kind of stunned by. Honestly, I'm taking the under on that one. Yeah.
They go to the dispensary before they put that one out.
I'm thinking. Last one on the 1 o'clock docket, the Bills and Colts. I think Josh Allen wins that game. I think Josh Allen wins that game. The Colts, I think they're still trying to figure out shit because obviously they got Flacco in, great. They need to get Jonathan Taylor back healthy, obviously, and playing well. The receiving core has been decimated for the Colts with injuries last couple weeks. If they figure out how to get healthy in Indianapolis, they might be able to put up a game, but I think the Bills win this one.
See, now this is going to be my upset special. I think the Colts have just enough defense. They're at home. I think they got past that initial week. I don't care what anybody says. If you're hearing the chatter and it's constant in the locker room every day, hey, why is he being benched? Why is he being benched? It sort of wears on you. Ask Dallas about the media and how it wears on you. I feel like they got past this, and now Flacco and the offense, they're ready to roll. I feel like as much as I love Josh Allen, and I think Buffalo is, a team to be reckoned with at some point, I just feel like this is one of those games they're not going to win.
Yeah, fair enough. Upset special. You heard it first.
That's it. I got the Colts on that one. I guess I got two upset specials because I got New England as well over the Bears.
That is true. Titans, Chargers. I'm going Chargers all the way on that one. They're a 7.5 favorite on that one. It's a home game in LA.
Who are the Titans?
Yeah, exactly.
Are the Titans? What are they?
You saw what D-Hop did with the celebration. Remember the Titans? He was all.
Yeah, that's right. He sure did. When that first happened, my son was like, "Yo, it's a new kind of gritty," and I said, "No, it's not. It's something," but I couldn't put my hand on it. My son's 30, so he's past that generation. It's all gritty. Like my daughter would have called that one out right away. But my son's a little bit older, so
it's not a new gritty. If you want to talk gritty, you have to go down to Louisiana. You got to go down to the roots.
Exactly. You need to get gritty, But yeah, I don't see the Titans doing much. They lost Hopkins, even though he wasn't doing anything on their squad. They got Pollard. Pollard looks good, but that's all they got. Will Mayonnaise. I don't even think he's playing. Right? He's still injured.
Yeah, still injured. I mean, honestly, they're in shambles. I think Chargers win that one easy. Eagles, Cowboys.
How about them Cowboys?
I think so. Okay, you know what? I'm going to call this a make it break it game, and here's why. The Eagles, they're showing a little bit of flash of improvement, all that. They've got to show me that they could beat the shit out of the Cowboys for me to take them seriously as a contender in the NFC at this point. Because I understand that they've always had issues with trying to figure out that offense in the last couple of years and all that. They've got every resource in the world. They got Saquon Barkley, for God's sakes. If anything, I want to see Saquon run for 150 in this game on the Cowboys. Seriously. And I think it'll happen. Cowboys, I think if they lose, they honestly need to fold up shop at this point. They literally need to fold up shop somehow. Like
you think it takes this weekend for them to do that? I think they should fold up shop already.
Remember, we have to hear it from the horse's mouth first. I mean, the jackass has to speak on Tuesday on a radio show before we can.
And that's funny because what they should do is they should superimpose a picture of Donkey from Shrek, and that should be what Jerry Jones looks like while he's sitting there talking that garbage. And then what? I give him credit for building up the franchise from a brand standpoint, but he's done everything possible to make sure they can't win. Because they have the talent. They won 11 games 3 years in a row. They shouldn't have stood pat this past offseason. They got cheap. They could have had Derrick Henry. Don't tell me that there's a cap issue. That wasn't enough money for a cap issue to matter. And he just thinks that being Jerry Jones is going to make their team a winner. That's not happening. I agree with you. I'd like to see the Eagles win this, but I think, again, this is a divisional game. I'd like to see them win it convincingly, like Detroit did when they went to Dallas and all of that. But I think right now they're still sort of getting things in order. If they win on the road in Dallas, I'm happy with that. But I do expect them to win by at least 10. Dallas is playing Cooper Rush. Who?
Yeah, exactly.
and they're still decimated on the defense. Their defense looks like crap. Bland, Diggs, whoever you want to put back there, they're all getting burnt.
They're bland, and we're giving them Diggs. That's what it is.
Exactly. Exactly.
They ain't doing shit. Yeah, and Micah Parsons, you don't exist anymore. You've been erased off the face of the earth for being a viable threat at this season. I mean, honestly, and I don't know if that's game planning or what, or his own motivation at this point. I don't know what it is. But
I think it's his own motivation.
I feel
like he's taking his time. Have you noticed that many of these athletes have been taking their time, and some of them were just posturing to get traded, like Devontae Adams did? Did that hamstring really hurt, or were you posturing and not playing so that you can keep yourself fresh for the team you were going to?
Devontae, DeAndre, Micah. I mean, I could go down the list, but I feel like a lot of these guys, they're just kind of, waiting in the weeds there, waiting to see if they can shake some trees or whatever it is. It's messed up. Bad culture, NFL.
Yeah,
really.
Mark my words. I'm not sure that Parsons I think that they want to keep him, but where is the money going to come from?
Money, yeah.
When they come in the next year between Dak and CD, they're going to basically. I'm expecting a phone call in today going, "Hey Roy, man, would you be interested in at least being on our practice squad so we can come out and practice against someone? Because we only got 5 players on our team because that's all we could afford." Yep,
sounds about right. Here we go. Let's go. Jets Cardinals. Aaron Rodgers down in the desert. I think this could be an interesting game. Jets showed a little bit of promise last week. One game does not make a trend. They're figuring out their offense. They've got a 2-headed monster in the running back core with Breece Hall and the other guy. Kyler Murray's impressing me. Kyler Murray is carrying a team with his little gnome hands and his little gnome hat. Like
that skit you sent me was so freaking funny. I'm telling you, with the Scooby-Doo and had them running around. That was so freaking funny. I loved it.
I tell you what, that dude knows how to ball. James Conner's been a beast. Marvin
That's
Harrison.
who's impressing me. Connors is impressing me. This dude looks like when he was at Pittsburgh and he was rolling over people, boy. He's something to handle when he's coming through the hole. Not Derrick Henry, but the dude hits you hard and he's got speed.
I'm going to go this way, though. I'm going to go Jets, and here's why. I'm not going because of the offense. I'm not going to talk about that dude. I'm going to talk about their defense. Their defense has sustainably held teams in the 20s, like sustainably throughout the season.
That's why this season's a joke, because they can't score 20 points.
Exactly. So that's where I like that fact. If they can hold the Cardinals to 20, and with whatever signs of promise the Jets offense is now kind of showing and has the dual threat at both wide receiver and running back, I think they can make it work to get to 30 points, hopefully, and win this game.
I don't disagree with that. Just beware of the Cardinals. I think
they're good.
For some reason, there's a resurgence there. People had already written them off. They're in the thick of things in the NFC West. And, they did beat the 49ers. They came back and won that game. They got a running game now. Kyler is Kyler and can be Kyler. They're starting to now realize that Harrison should be somebody they throw to, which they sort of ignored him the first few games. But I'm with you. I think the Jets are going to ride the wave of their first victory in how many games and potentially pull this off. But don't be surprised. And here's what I'll say the surprise will be. If the Jets actually lose by 15 to 20 points. And the reason I say this is if they get down, I have a feeling that they're not going to get back up.
Well, and that's the thing. If you look at the Cardinals and the way they've won games, they punch you in the mouth fast. So if they punch you in the mouth fast, you're going to be playing from behind. That'll get interesting really quick.
That's what I'm talking about. And then they're pounding counters. The clock is going. The Jets are sweating because they're getting right back into that same funk that they hoped they'd gotten out of. But all it takes is one more loss for them to be right back in that same funk. Next, we got Lions and Texans. That's going to be a good game, y'all.
I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's a good time. It's a good time to finally see the Lions on the road in a tougher environment. The problem is the Texans just looked so bad last week. I feel like their offense fell apart, and they've never had one thing I've said since the beginning of the season. They have no defense, in my opinion. Their defense is a hole in a sieve, and it's going to cost them in these games where they're playing these tougher teams. That said, because the Lions are just riding an incredible offense right now, I think they put up a 35-point number against the Texans on the road, and I think they win this game by double digits.
Well, if the Lions can go into Green Bay in the rain and beat Green Bay, they
Yep.
surely can go into a dome, right? Isn't that a dome down there?
And that's the thing. So if you look at the Lions wins, I think last week was the first game that they played on an outdoor field apparently in this whole season, which was weird.
Yes.
And what? They prevailed still. So I'm taking them. Yeah, I'm buying the
and what can you do? So, besides the weapons that they got Amon St. Ron, all that stuff. But they got a two-headed monster. To me, they have the best running game. People say it's Baltimore because of Lamar and Derrick Henry, and don't get me wrong, they're powerful and great. But I think the best running game in the league exists in Detroit.
Yep, Gibbs Montgomery is the toughest and hard-nosed backfield. There's no question.
And you know what? You know what's really hard when you're out there on the field and you've played for an hour and a half and you're huffing and puffing? It's trying to stop a guy who runs with conviction.
Well, and like you just said, because I think the NFL is, I think, somewhat embracing this in more successful teams. You have to have a two-headed monster because you need to be able to outlast teams with that ground game.
That's
at the end of the day. That's what gets you a title at the end of the day. And of course, you've got all these plethora of weapons around you. Sam Laporta.
That's what makes them dangerous. Yeah. They got a guy who's acted a fool in Williams. He can disappear, and they can put Patrick in there. They still got other receivers, and they still got their tight end, Laporta. They got weapons upon weapons upon weapons. They can beat you so many different ways. Don't see how they lose this game against the Texans, even if Stroud starts playing like he has been playing. He looked a little lost last week. I don't know if he stayed out late or something. But.
I think no Nico Collins is what really cost it. I think he was the glue guy on that offense.
Well, and no Diggs now too. So they're your two leading receivers. Tank Dell is having issues carrying the load.
Not a one. I think Tank Dell's not a number one. That's the problem.
Yeah. So I think that is hurting them. But they still got Mixon. They got weapons enough to still be able to compete. But last week they looked really lost, and Stroud was throwing the ball around like he was a quarterback from the Bears.
Yeah.
So
right.
I don't know.
Monday night game, Dolphins-Rams, Tua versus Stafford. I'm going Stafford on this one. I mean, Tua's still kind of coming back, figuring out the offense and all that. He had a sharp game last week. I think he only had like 2 good completions, so not a bad thing. But they're playing in LA. Stafford's got his weapons back. He's got Nakua. He's got his boy Cooper. I love the Rams going forward because honestly, I think they are built to put up points. Now, defense for them will continue to be suspect, but honestly, that's Miami too. Miami's got star power that hasn't shown up with all these Jalen and all that stuff. I like the Rams on that one.
I like the Rams, but I'm going to throw a wrench in this one and go with Miami. I do feel like the Rams right now are probably a better team. They're trending upwards. They got Stafford. They got their wide receivers. They're in the thick of a race, which also plays into, how you play. When you got something to play for, when you feel like, hey, we got a chance here. Williams is running the ball pretty effectively. But I'm going to go with the Dolphins, and I'll tell you why. It's Monday night. I think Tua is going to perform, but who I think is going to really perform?
A-Chain?
I think A-Chain is going to run the Rams ragged. And when they've had enough of him, they're going to put Mostert in there, and he's going to run them even.
Another 1-2 punch that honestly probably hasn't performed up to level yet, but they're due for a breakout. There's no question. They're due for a breakout. So I think they could run roughshod on a Rams defense that honestly isn't that great anymore without Aaron Donald.
It's okay, but it isn't great. Right. And that's why I think they're going to win the game. And I think as soon as they start putting a run on their butt, that's when Tariq's going to get one of those long passes, and that's when you're going to start seeing their offense look like they did the beginning of last season.
If anything, there's going to be a lot of shit talk between him and Ramsey on the field. It's going to be fun to watch.
I think there are some great games, and I think that they're, like we were talking about, or some of the situations that we have in football and how this is going to impact the playoff seeding. There are a lot of really good games on the slate this week that I think are going to help set the expectations for the second half of the season.
Yeah, you're going to see some tiers evolving after this week in terms of who the upper echelon, in the middle, and in the low here, because these are great matchups to test each team mid-season now, basically.
Oh, and one thing I wanted to say about that Dolphins game, the one thing that I saw last week that I was a little scared of, but thankful that I saw it, and I think it's going to help going forward. Tua actually went in and he fought for a first down, and he didn't go feet first. He went head first. And when he started, everybody's like, oh. And then when he landed and he got back up and he wasn't hurt, it was like, ah. But I think he needed that to get his mind right about being a football player again, because there's always that fear. And, it's just like anything. You need to get that first part out of you, and then you can settle down, calm down, and be what you can be.
Every you face what he's faced, or even an injury for a player, like, you want to be able to test that to the limits of your capability before you get that confidence back.
Right.
For him to do that, I think that was a huge step. I mean, like I said, he had a great game last week. They didn't win, but they had a great game where he only had a good game. Solid. So, I think at the end of the day, I think he's back in full capacity. Thank God for my fantasy team. The funny thing, I have him in Stafford. So, America, tell me who I should start.
That's a good one. Call in.
Yeah.
999-9999.
No, we'll put a 1-900 number out there from the 80s. I think I was joking around.
Or you could call, for those who remember these, at 777-9311, or what, 867-5309. You got a bunch of famous phone numbers that have been part of pop hits. So
now the number I gotta find is Miss Cleo. I'm sure she's still out there somewhere.
Is she? I thought Miss Cleo went to jail, didn't she?
She went to jail, but I mean, it's been 30 years, so she should be out now, right? Like,
call her up and she'll tell you what's going to happen.
God, that psychic ball. I'm telling you.
Hey, you know what? She was at the right time to do that kind of stuff, and she took advantage of it, maybe to an extent that isn't legal. But you go ahead. Hey, we got a president now that's a convicted felon, so I'm not mad at Miss Cleo.
The world is changing. That's what I said. Yeah, folks like Miss Cleo, the Menendez brothers, they're coming out of prison now. So we're
that's right. Yeah, they've been talking about that. So you never know what's going to happen. You know what I know should happen? And this is just my own fandom, and I don't believe in tanking games. But what I think should happen is the Bears continue on their course where they lose. They get rid of their coach. Don't fire him mid-season. Wait until the end of the season. They should look at getting a real coach, and don't tell me you're going to go get another defensive coordinator, because that's not what you need. You need somebody who's offensive-minded. Matt Nagy, don't you even think about applying. And they play out this season with an eye towards next season on how they're going to improve their front line to protect Caleb, because I hate to see young quarterbacks, and that's why people don't realize Jaden Daniels looks great, but that's why I posed that question earlier. If they switched and they were in the different franchises, I'm sorry, when you're running for your life constantly, ask Mahomes when he was in that Super Bowl how that felt. Ask many quarterbacks when you can't even read the defense, because by the time you say hike, you got somebody breathing their stanky breath right in your face, ready to knock you out. That's what's going to kill Caleb, and I'm hopeful that they realize that and start putting people in front of him who care about blocking enough so he doesn't feel like he's in the longest yard and the guys are just olaying to allow these defenders just come straight in and hit him.
On that note, we'll end on this thought. Think about the future, both in sports, politics, whatever you want. Think about the future. Let's move forward, people.
Well, and stop the hate. You know what? You don't have to look like me. You don't necessarily have to have beliefs like me. But what we should be able to do is give a little respect. And I've always lived by this, and my mom told me this. Respect people until they don't earn that respect any longer. But let's not start the other way and disrespect each other and berate each other when we don't even know who we are. Let's be more open-armed, and let's see what we can do if we embrace each other versus what we've been seeing with the hate and things that's in society today. I don't care what color you are. I'm like, Captain Kirk. He go to a planet, you could be blue, green, whatever. He was going to try to have sex with you because he was trying to, make the world a better place, or at least make his bedroom a better place.
I believe Master said it best. He said, "Captain Kirk, can you save me? Captain Kirk, I want to have your baby." But
But that's what it's about, man. I don't care. It really is about the content of your character. Martin Luther King's words will be in history and etched in many people's brains, because that's what it should be about. I don't care who you are. I don't care what gender you are. I don't care if you're trans or this or that. What kind of person are you? Are you making
Yep.
the world around you a better world? And that should be the goal that we all should be trying to achieve.
Totally agree. Yep. On that note, we will pick back up after this week and see where all this fallout is from this week, and definitely have our tiers of competitiveness going into the playoff run here shortly, going into the holiday season.
Or you could have tears for fears too, because some teams are going to be really fearful after this week. We'll see what happens.
Don't fear the Reaper. Yeah.
Or there'll be everybody wants to rule the world, which right now, that's the Kansas City Chiefs, y'all.
Yeah, we're 80s people. We know what we're talking about. On that note, have a good week, guys, and we will circle back later.
All right, partner. Be well, and be well, America. Enjoy, and we'll talk to you next time.
See you guys.